Hi there, you lovely lot, and welcome to the latest episode of the Pat's Procrastination post-game recap wrap show. Welcome, it is episode 35 of Pat's Procrastination, brought to you by the Pat's Propaganda YouTube channel. So please do not forget to be subscribing to said YouTube channel, folks, so that you do not miss episode 36 and so on. We welcome you into week 2, and while I think about it, don't forget to go over to the Pat's Propaganda prop shop to fill your basket with all the cool swag. That's patspropaganda.com. So, as I said, week 2, welcoming. I am Clazzy Clare. He is Chudders. So, Chudders, how are things with you?
They're okay. I don't think any of us are waking up excited and happy this morning. Well, except Claire, who's obviously always very buoyant and very positive in the way that she likes to fan. But disappointing, I think, after the game yesterday. What are your first thoughts, Claire?
Yes, disappointing. I am attempting to be as bubbly as I can be at a ridiculous hour in the morning on a Monday. So there's coffee over here. So apologies, folks. Bit on the still waking up side. But yeah, it was a winnable game. There were lost opportunities. There was plenty of positive that I can take away from the game. So as you throw out your negatives and things like that, I will counteract with some positives. I do have some. There are some. So it is one of those. But it is deflating. The game against the Bengals was a little, it kind of set us up for a bit of a fall because it was may have been a bit of a wild card type one. So winning against the Bengals may not be as winning against the Bengals as it seems, but you never know. I mean, we are only 1-1. It is only the second week that has been concluded. There's still plenty of the season to play. There's still plenty of the season to see. So that is where I am. Winnable game for me. Still some positives. Winnable game. Lost opportunities. Mildly disappointed. How are you at this 2020?
Well, I was going to say, I think I'm going to be fair and throw to you. If we look at the offense first, as we usually try to do, look at the positives. I think it's only fair that you open with one of the big positives of the offense, which I'm sure you're going to be very pleased about, which was
the tight ends. There was plenty of 81-85 lineup. Unfortunately, the downside of that is having to use Hooper as a blocker considerably because what O-line? A little bit of that this week. So yeah, that's unfortunate. But yes, Hunter is out there making plays. But I'm not surprised. You say that. I'm not surprised. I know that he's this guy. We all should know that he's this guy. He was sort of a binky for Mac, if you like. And it's looking that way that he's progressing very well with that for Brissett as well. Just because he's that guy. He's that solid, dependable. He isn't a superstar sparkle that you like to see, but he's definitely plenty for me.
Fair enough. I agree. He certainly had a great first half, a bit quieter in the second half.
Yeah, that's fair.
He was the focal point. I suppose this takes us nicely into the receiving because he was obviously clearly the Patriots' top receiver, 12 targets, 8 receptions, 109 stat line. But the reality is 3 catches to wide receivers, 3 receptions. That's not good if you're looking at a passing attack.
They don't have a pass game. This is the problem. They don't really have a passing game now. So you can point fingers plenty. Sorry, go on.
Well, I was going to ask you a question about this. Do you think the lack of, because you're right, it's a passing game. You can't just blame the receivers. As good as Henry was receiving, it still wasn't a overly excessive passing game. It wasn't like a Kelsey, Kittle, Laporte or whatever, ridiculous stat line. It was good, very, very good. But it's not like it was an incredible passing offense. Do you think that's because there is a poor O-line? Is it because the Patriots possibly don't have, let's say, elite weapons at the wide receiver position? Is it because they don't have a quarterback who is going to push the ball down the field, should we say? I think there was something like only 2 attempts beyond 10 yards in the whole game today, something like that. Some key stats that I saw. Is it scheme? And they're just not that Mayo seemed to allude to it in the week. Is it not in the playbook to be pushing the ball downfield? They're just going to look to run. Like the passing game. They're not even trying to make it an option. Why do the Patriots not have an offense, a passing offense?
I think, to be fair, you can't pinpoint it to one thing. It's all of the above. That's why you're throwing it out to give me that look. But yeah, it is all of the above. Maybe you can argue that maybe if their O-line was stronger, the kind of the onus on the wide receiver wouldn't be as necessary type thing. He wouldn't need to be an elite guy, as you say. So it's one of those, as you move that bar down and that one goes up, and you can't get them, you'll get them all level by having only a bit of one and that kind of thing. So I know that's why people say that obviously an elite quarterback raises it up, but there is always the argument of, well, you can have an elite quarterback, but if you've got a crummy O-line and no real wide receivers, it can't push the level to a successful line sort of thing. So it's really a lot of it. And when you've got the likes of, I mean, there's nothing against Jacoby Brissett. He has come in, and as much as this game wasn't very great, I think the way he's managing as a quarterback, he's coming into this knowing that technically eventually he'll lose his job because they drafted Drake May. He hasn't got a long-term future in the Patriots as QB1. He may have as a backup and, or some kind of coaching or some kind of that sort of thing. But he isn't here to be our QB1 for the next few years, and he knows that. But he's still attempting to make the team, excuse me, as good as possible. So for me, that was surprising when I saw him, maybe more in the Bengals game than this, was he's actually doing better than I anticipated. I was really concerned about that. So maybe because he isn't much of a thrower, they're not looking at using it in the playbook. And so, again, it moves that bar sort of thing. It's just, you said, NFL, it's a passing game and they don't have everything. But again, I want to throw out there is still time. And I know that there's the call for, bringing May sort of situation. But I still feel like they need to get other things set. They need to get some of those other bars sorted. Because you've got, I want to throw out there the Caleb Williams situation. They've got the number one, and everything else just seems like trash. So it seems worthless to waste in a way for me. I'm still at that point. As I meant to say, I went off on a tangent, but Jacoby's being a game manager, and I think he's sort of trying to set us up for a good future. And I think, there's still plenty of ball to be played as well. That was all over the place. It's too freaking early for this. I need more coffee.
You're touching on a lot of the points that I'm thinking. The fear I have is I feel like we're spinning our tires. You're quite right when you say we have a better O-line. Things could look better, and possibly that would also mean you're in a better position to be introducing Drake May to the fold. The problem is you can't see that improving. How is that going to improve? They're not likely to be going out and getting talent. If anything, they're losing talent. It looks like Okorafor is possibly going to even retire from football. He seems to have zero interest now. Sadly, he was the marquee signing on the O-line that the Patriots are screaming out for. All the fans are thinking, right, we have to sort this O-line going into the next season. He was the fix they brought in. And he's going to retire from football. And to be honest, it's not even looked like he was going to be the saviour. I'm not saying that he's a great loss to the team, because what phenomenal play he had in camp and high hopes we had for the season. But I think that shows a failure by the front office to address one of, if not the biggest need in the football team.
Yeah.
The O-line, you'd say it probably was, and the O-line looks really bad.
But
as I said last week, the run game that's looked good is not because of the O-line. It's not that they have a phenomenal O-line creating gaps, and that's enabling the running backs to go and eat up the yards. The running backs are almost covering for them. Go on.
To push back, though, you say it was poor management by the front office. Yep. Okay, fair. I'm with you. I wanted O-line. However, what did we expect them to do? Because to get the top left tackle, you use your first round pick, and they couldn't. You can't have Drake May and a top left tackle. It's not possible. Yes, they may have chosen the wrong guy in Okorafor, so you could argue they chose the wrong guy. However, when he came in for an interview, perhaps he was the guy that fit in the best, that they had the best chemistry with, that looked like he was going to be the best. Have you never made a mistake choosing something? It's just, it's one of those. I agree with you. It's annoying, it's frustrating, and we're sitting here complaining about an O-line probably for about, what, the fourth year? I've been doing this 4 years now, and I think I've been complaining about the O-line for those 4 years. But there's always the element of, but they got Drake May. It really is difficult to have got that guy and then secured, especially with the free agency market. It really wasn't there. There's only so much you can do with what you are given, and that's sort of, I don't know, that's kind of what's keeping me going in a way. It sucks, completely sucks, but there's only so much that can be done. And yeah, I agree with you. Okorafor possibly retired. There's a lot of talk about that. Nothing confirmed at the moment as we record this really early Monday on the 16th. But and Lowe went out in overtime injured. We don't know any of the details on that as of yet, as I said, as we record this. So it isn't looking great at left tackle, but we can only blame things so much that's feasible to be done. It's like, okay, oh yeah, let's do the talk about, oh well, they could have traded Juju and got 2 first-round picks and moved up and all this kind of crap. That's just complete nonsense. So this is what we've got for this season, and this is how it's going to be for this season. And I know we're going to, discuss this a lot. And there's so much. There's just wiggle room as well. So we could be talking about this in 2 more games' time where they won those winnable games. There was that margin by which they won a little bit, and it was still scrappy, and they're still learning, and it's still the running game that they're falling back on, but maybe Jacoby gets to air a few out and stuff. But yeah, it's difficult because I agree. He had no time. Jacoby had no time in the pocket, and always scrambling quarterback. It isn't the way to play a successful season. But then you've got to argue, what's your opinion of a successful season? So very argumentative. Very argumentative.
Yeah, good. No, that's good. I like this debate. So I would agree. I certainly don't regret making the May pick, and they should have taken left tackle. No, I think they did the right thing there. But in the story, I guess you portrayed there of them getting Okorafor in the room, them thinking that was the best man for the job. That's where I would suggest that their talent acquisition failed, or certainly is failing. Let's not say it's failed yet. We're only 2 games in. It's failing, and I pull it out because I think, should that pattern continue throughout the rest of the season, if we're not seeing, Okorafor doesn't suddenly turn the corner and come out, then that needs to be addressed for next year. Because the way it looks
completely
is that the trouble with them saying, oh yeah, no, we got Okorafor in and he was the best man for the job. It walked like a duck. It sounded like a duck, and it turns out it was a duck. It was the Pittsburgh swing tackle who you thought he was going to be your left tackle, your right tackle, like your starter at left tackle and this wasn't like this was the perfect O-line who needed one more piece, and you thought this was the bit we're going to fit in. No, it needed rebuilding. And it turns out, yeah, he really, really wasn't. You took a right tackle from a very good college team, but you said after the draft, we think he's our left tackle, and no, he isn't. So that's 2 decisions you've made that have been wrong. They had the most cap space. I'm not saying maybe they did have conversations and they couldn't get in. It just looks like it's been a failed project to improve the O-line so far, because it looks no better than last season. The other thing, I would suggest from those 2 acquisitions they had, where they took Pittsburgh's okay. That it's not like they had the best O-line in the world, but you took a swing tackle from another team and you took a right tackle, thought you could make him a left tackle. To me, that suggests you have confidence in your coaching, that you can get the best out of 2 players in potentially new positions that they're not accustomed to. That suggests we think we've got the right scheme, we've got the right coaches in place to get the very best out of these players. And evidence so far would suggest that you failed in that. These are just things that I think need to be addressed. And you're right when you say that we looked at this for the past 4 years, and the reality is that the common denominator there is Skarnakia, and losing him a few years ago, he ain't coming back. And I'm not saying you're going to be able to find another Skarnakia out there to turn it all around, but it's just it worries me how they either didn't prioritize or the way they addressed it seems to have failed. Now that brings me on to, because I don't see how it's necessarily going to improve, and it feels like we're spinning our wheels a bit here. What are we doing? We want to improve as the New England Patriots. Now, in reality, I don't think there's very many fans who came into the season expecting us to beat the Bengals and for that to be propelling us on to a postseason run this season. So, being 1-1, if you told us that 6 months ago, we wouldn't be. There aren't many people that would be that worried about that result in terms of the scores, but it's what we're seeing on the field. We came away last week and we weren't blown away. We didn't blow out the Bengals when the Bengals were playing really well, and yet we kept them to 15 points and we scored 34. And oh my gosh, this team is a revelation. We came out of it thinking we might be a bit lucky here, to be honest. We caught them at a time when they're not quite ready. We just about did enough. We didn't play phenomenal on offense. We played very well on defense. This is a good result, but let's not kid ourselves that we've got something magical here. This week, I don't think the performance was a hell of a lot different to last week, but you played a team that was better prepared and better executed. And even then, the Seahawks weren't that phenomenal either themselves. And they beat you. And I feel like, okay, so what are we waiting for? What are we doing? What are we waiting for? How are we going to... Because Drake May is obviously the linchpin here. That is the big question in the room. When are we going to start him? But for me, it's beyond that. It's okay. So your wide receivers caught 3 passes, and Polk had a brilliant, touchdown, had some good catch.
Yeah.
Osborne contributed as well. But you're thinking, well, hang on, we need to develop our receivers. We've just taken 2 in the draft. We picked up 1 in free agency, and we retained 2 talents. That we paid 1 and 1 was obviously still on his rookie contract. That we need to be developing them. We're not developing them with our game plan, with our offense.
Well,
we need to develop them.
We definitely have to start getting the ball down the field, is what he said specifically in his. I think it was his post-game thing last night.
And it hasn't happened this week. So is that an AVP issue? Is that Brissett's decision making? Why are we not developing them? That's my fear.
It's not going to be one thing again, is it? Well, my opinion, it's not going to be the one thing. It's the same. You up that a little bit, and it balances that out. That sort of thing. Bit of everything in a way.
It's not going to change. We've obviously we'll get to it later, but we've got a game in 4 days' time, Thursday night against the Jets. Isn't really going to change in these 4 days. I expect that to be a run-heavy offense again from the Patriots. And Drake May, almost certainly, barring injuries, and Brissett did get beaten up quite a bit in this game.
Yeah, he did get banged up. Yeah.
May's going to be coming in to do anything on Thursday either. But I just want to see this team develop, and it doesn't feel like this team is developing. It doesn't even feel like it's set up to develop. I'd rather almost Brissett was trying to be throwing the ball downfield and they're not quite getting there, or he's throwing it over their heads, or I want to see them trying to progress a passing offense.
Of that is
I still don't care too much about the results. I would have liked to have won yesterday. Disappointed when we didn't. But what I want to see this season is development, and it doesn't feel like we're seeing that. It doesn't feel like we're developing wide receivers. You took one in the second round instead of taking a left tackle, which is I can accept that as a course of action, but you're now not developing that receiver. That's the frustration. So I look forward to when we get to the part of the season when that is happening. I just feel like we're spinning our wheels. What are we waiting for here? What are we trying to achieve? What are we trying to get to? Because we already know Stevenson's a good running back.
Yeah.
We don't need to develop his game before we bring in the new Patriots, the new offense. That's just that's some frustrations of mine. But I'll stop ranting now. Any more on the offense, Claire?
You're going to need to move it on to the defense if you actually want to have time to have your defensive rant.
Well,
So
the one thing I'll touch on is Stevenson's good. Obviously, Gibson had a very good game as well. It was earmarked by a 45-yard run, which was incredibly lucky. He should have been taken down in the backfield. That was poor defense, not to make that a tackle for loss. He then took advantage of that opportunity, broke some tackles, got downfield. But it was just incredibly lucky. You can't say that was well schemed. That was well protected. It was luck that got you that play. Sadly, but no, he had a good game. 11 for 96 after 8.7. He had a good game on offense as well. So shall we move on to the defense, Claire? What pleased you?
Sure, go for it. Well, they weren't as consistent, so that's not going to please me. They had some blips. There were some up and downs of the defense. There was some like poor communications and things like that. There were some areas where they played well and then some areas where they didn't. So it's a consistency thing. So I'm just hoping that because they did well against the Bengals, maybe they took their foot off their gas a little bit, or are they being exposed? I think it's one of those, want to see what they've got a little bit more. Gonzalez on Metcalf was successful and also not successful. So it's a little bit of a, so we've only got a very small catchment area, a catchment size of what we can utilize for opinion. So I'm still confident that we've got a really good defense at the moment. White is a bit of a beast. He's a very scary guy, very scary guy. I'm sure he's lovely, but he's a very scary guy. So unfortunately, there's some defensive injuries now with Bentley going out and Jimenez. So see how that unfolds and affects. But yeah, this defense is a defense that I want to watch. I'm not a glory hunter, as you know, because I'm not a big into the big sparkly wide receivers and things like that. And I entered this sport being an offense girl because I'm tight ends is what lured me in, and I'm big into the O-line and the importance of the O-line. But this defense is a defense that you don't sort of semi-tap out of the game just hoping that the other side don't do well. This is a defense that kind of makes you want to watch. Now, I'm sure there's lots of people that already want to watch, every single second. Please don't get me wrong. It's just they've got something that just keeps you animated for the whole game, usually.
Are you more excited to touch on that? Are you more excited watching the defense than the offense? Like, do you think, we could make plays here, we could make sacks, we could make interceptions, where you're thinking maybe on offense, okay, we're just going to watch him hand it off and hopefully get 7 yards here?
No, but I am a lot more even as much as I am in, because obviously for me, offense it's still the tight end sets. It's still watching, that and the development that that we're hoping that with this rebuild sort of thing. But the defense, as I evolve as a fan, watching the sport, really, I am becoming more and more appreciative of the defense, and I think that the Patriots defense, that's what's done it, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of guys on defense who I now am a really big, I love this guy sort of thing. Whereas before it was never, I'd never consider it like that. So it's evolving me as a fan, which is kind of fun. But I don't want to trash them, but it wasn't the best. But as I said, consistency, I think, is more of a word if you want to throw a negative. But you're more of a defense guy than I anyway, so this was supposed to be your section.
I think, no, it's for both of us. I don't think, they don't deserve trashing. I don't think he had the best game, particularly in coverage. Run defense, they were pretty good, to be fair. They only averaged 1.6 on the ground. The first half, I think they only ran like 6 yards or something ridiculous at some point. They were showing stats, or maybe that was the second half. But your run defense is very good. Like you say, White was a beast. He does look like he's now the guy. that
Yeah.
oppositions are going to have to
Maybe.
scheme for. Are you going to double team him? Are you going to have to set your protections around him? He looks like he can just beat men. He can find gaps and he can beat people one-on-one. He can beat you. He's getting to your quarterback one way or the other. Can you
Get
get the
another one
ball
of
out
them
before he gets there?
in the 2025 draft. That'll be fun.
Yeah. I mean, a couple of months ago,
Get
they
one
had
of him.
someone of similar ilk who, like I said, if we'd had one on each side, that would have been brilliant. If you had Barmore in the middle, wow, what this could have been.
Well, this is it. That's a situation that they couldn't have foreseen. So maybe if we'd been talking, if Barmore wasn't in this unfortunate situation, we would be talking about the domination of Barmore and White. So, that's something to, and you can play the coulda, woulda, shoulda anyway for a long time, and we don't have a long time to play that game. So
yeah, I don't think the coverage was as great. As you say, if you look at a stat line, Gonzo did well against DK Metcalf, but that's a bit, I think, slightly misleading because then it's looking at, well, what was man versus zone, and obviously he had the big breakout when he was with Gonzo on that side for his touchdown when he was in acres of space. So was it a good game for Gonzo? It wasn't a bad one, but it wasn't brilliant. I think possibly you can answer that from both sides depending on how you want to see that. But it felt like the Seahawks could move the ball through their passing game as they wanted and needed to. They've obviously got two good talents there, Smith and Jigba, and DK Metcalf, even Tyler Lockett, who looks a bit down on previous years, but he's still a great talent there. They have weapons. They can use their weapons. They're using their weapons, and the Patriots didn't really stop them. They got good pressure. They had a good run defense, but on the passing game, you got to say Seahawks won that quite clearly. So yeah, there's things to improve on. You're going to be up against a big test. The Jets eked out a win just themselves, but now you're coming against Garrett Wilson and I know I'm forgetting his name, Rodgers. So it'd be interesting to see how the Patriots now deal with that. But yeah, the defense can do better, but they kept them in the game, you'd say. I think to some extent, because one thing I was thinking of late last week was what's the minimum amount of points, or rather, what's the max amount of points that the defense can give up that you think the Patriots offense will still be in the game? And you'd probably say it's maybe about 20. I can't see. I mean, Patriots maybe could get to 21, 24. Like you can't see the Patriots are going to be scoring much more than that. And then likewise, what's the minimum amount of points that you think the Patriots could score to win a game? Like how good's the defense? The defense, if the Patriots score 13, could they win that game? Possibly against some teams because the defense looks that good. So it's just a narrow window there. You need the Patriots to do well on both sides of the ball, and it didn't happen this week. So it was disappointing. We can touch on briefly special teams. Obviously, blocked field goal. That was quite key in the end. Didn't help that Brissett gave up the 9-yard sack. I'm sure we were all screaming at our TVs at the time, throw it away. He gave up the sack. They're out of field goal range. Well, not out of field goal range, but it made it a lower trajectory kick. And they gave up a block, and they didn't extend that lead. You could also say, and it was the whole build up to the end of the second quarter as well, where you thought, okay, the Patriots might have a chance here to score before you go in, and they essentially went 3 and out, kicked the ball away, and then conceded 3 more points. It just wasn't a great day all round. It just was not a great day all round. Coach better, play better, develop. That's what I want to see. Any other points you have from the game?
Just a point on that. It did sort of feel like they went off. It kind of eked off by the time the third quarter began. And that's exactly what happened in the Bengals game. The third quarter was not their best moments, if you like. But what did happen was it was almost like they picked themselves back up and got strong in the fourth quarter. And that didn't quite happen. Now, is that more to do with the Seahawks than the Patriots themselves? So it's something to kind of look out for. Are we going to have a bad third quarter? but that's
There could be
okay as long as you can
adjustments.
pick it back up in the fourth quarter. But it's a rebuild. It's, you know, we've got a lot of the season left to go, and I hope there's plenty of coffee because I'm going to need it. But yeah, we need to kind of wrap up, and it is a quick turnaround. Thursday at New Jersey, 8:15 East Coast time on Thursday the 19th, but it's actually 1:15 a.m. for us UK residents on Friday the 20th. So yeah, great fun. Lots of sleep. Oh, I just love it when football's back. So what are you thinking to do with the Jets? And so quick turnaround, how are we feeling?
It's their home opener, having started 2 back-to-back on the road for them. So I think they're going to be buoyed up. When you look at what they did last year for Rodgers in his first game, 4 plays later, it all fell on the face. I think they've now just won a game. There's going to be a lot of energy in that stadium. He's survived. I think his first snap this year was a fumble from the running back. He handed it off and then fumble from the running back for kind of a turnover. It might have even been a touchdown. But it was an awful start for them there. But you'd like to think they're going to be a lot more supportive, a lot more wanting to see this Aaron Rodgers era 1 year shorter than the 2-3 years they even expected. I think it's going to be a tough game. Patriots going to be heavily relying on the running game. Massive, massive, massive. To touch on that, Gibson is who I'm giving my underrated player of the day. I thought White was very,
I
very
agree.
good, but Gibson wasn't expecting him to come out and do much, but he did well. Not just the 45-yard run. Even if you take that out, he had 10 for 50, something like that. Taking that one out, so 11 for 96 was very good. And a reception in there as well. They're going to be heavily reliant on their running game. They can make waves. You've got to hope somehow, and I said earlier, I don't know how, but somehow a passing game is going to have to come out at some point.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to have to come out. And hopefully we see a bit more of that this week. And like you said, it could be heavily reliant on Henry. And again, he needs to be taking 10 catches for 100 again. He's your main focal point. But they're going to have to develop this passing game, pushing the ball downfield, because you cannot just rely on Gibson and Stevenson.
No.
I think it's going to be tough. Sadly, I do think the Patriots are going to lose this one, which hopefully is going to be a good omen, because I thought they were going to lose the first game and they won, and I thought they were going to win the second game and they lost. So I think they're going to lose relatively narrow, so maybe something like 24-17, something like maybe just one score. It could be a bit lower scoring than that. Division game, midweek. Yeah. So that's what I'll go with. What do you think, Claire?
Patriots 17, Jets 16.
Oh, confidence again. You're still just going to continue to pick the Patriots to win every single game, aren't you? Yeah.
I don't have it in me not to. I find it way too difficult to throw it out there into the universe. I'm afraid that's just how I fan. It is what it is.
That's fine.
So that is.
What the one last thing, and I don't think this will happen, and I'm possibly looking too far ahead, but the Patriots have the 49ers after that, who George Kittle might be injured, McCaffrey's out. They've won the weekend. They didn't look great. It's a mini bye for the Patriots after this, because they're playing Thursday. You're going to have 10 days off.
Mm-hmm.
Is that opportunity where you could make a change at quarterback? Would you? Would you, Claire, as
I don't know,
head coach of the NEP?
I'm not sure. I'll let you know in 10 days.
No,
9
that's
days.
cheating.
I thought you were going to say it's a get right
13
game.
days.
Felt like a get
Could
right
be
game.
Get right game. But I was just thinking that.
I don't know. I'm guessing you want Mate in at that then.
It just feels like we're spinning our wheels. If we were, like I said,
really.
if Brissett was trying to develop the players so they're ready for May, I'd get it. Okay, let's keep doing this. I see what we're trying to achieve here. I don't see what we're trying to achieve when we have a brilliant, strong defense and a good running game. But that's not preparing a team. That's not developing a team to drop in your new quarterback. It's virtually nothing to do with the results in terms of win-loss. It's how we develop in this team. And it doesn't feel like we are. We're not developing the receivers. We're not developing a passing game so that we can plug in. If you suddenly chop overnight, right now we're dropping them in, you go, oh, right, well, I'm hoping we're seeing a pass game that we've not seen yet. No, I want to see it. I want to see it. I want to see the development. So I'm more hopeful than expecting, but fingers crossed. More than anything, I just really hope that by the time we got 5 weeks or 4 more games till Jaguars at Wembley, we surely we want to see Drake May by then. So the sooner the better, so that he's hitting the ground running by the time we get to Wembley, Claire. Yes,
okay. No? And on that bombshell, folks, we shall wrap up because it is the end of episode 35, week 2, the Seahawks. So tune in next time, folks. We will be back next week, not straight after the game, because obviously it's a Thursday night game. So we'll be back with you next week. So we are here every week now on the Pat's Propaganda YouTube channel. So do not forget to be subscribing, folks. Well, that is it for the Seahawks loss, 20-23. Tune in next time, folks. And as always, go Pats.
LFG.